having a curriculum for children and having a program with there was a lot of learning happening all the time. And Mrs. Steve, who's decided to pass it along to me 8 years ago, I got in December. I've been here for 20. I started working when I graduated from Massachusetts and came to do my my student teacher, and I walk in and I was like, okay, I'm staying in here. This is beautiful. The playground was what it like took me away, and then when you walk in, it's just a beautiful program. And so I stayed, graduated from college, went to Fitchburg State, and I'm here. 7 years ago, Mrs. T decided it was enough. She was 60 and she wanted to retire. I ended out for the business. We have 50 families. We are lucky enough, this year we have 7 families who, like my mother here, Catherine, she came here when she was little. So we have 7 families whose children are here who came here when they were little. Oh, nice. It's a really great program. We've been around for a long time, and we have such a great commitment to the city that, and the kids just feel so embrace Fitchburg constantly. So we have a really, we really like to connect the learning that we do in here and bring it throughout the city.
Why don't we?
With the backpack here and the
Hi, everybody. How are you?
Yeah, singing and having
What are you doing? Can you tell me what you're doing? Who's that? Pluto. Pluto. What color is the same? Do you want to watch Mom? Can you show me Mickey Mouse? Which one?
Did he have one around there? Yummy.
All right, I can just stay here today.
You don't get to work, do you?
What is this? Wait, who's in here? Who's this guy? Who's this? He's a dog. Hurry up. The train's in the station. You want to have a all right, let's ask if we can get another seat, okay? Let's count how many people. We'll see a seat over there.
12 people.
3, 4, 5, 6. Are you on the train? No, she's not on the train.
You get on your belly.
Here we go. We get another one. We get another person on the train.
You get on your belly.
Yeah.
1, and away.
2,
And your belly.
4, 5, 6. Oh, we had another one. And 7. All right. You forgot to get your horses? 7.
But first of all, thank you for being here, Jen and
Jen.
Representative and Senator. No, it's really an honor for you to take time from your schedule to come up here. Essentially, why this affects you all is because of a piece of legislation, and I believe both of you have co-sponsored it, which is great. And we just wanted to give you a little sort of synopsis of why it's important and how it affects these kids and these families. And as you know, Tara runs a center in Templeton. Adam's the president of the Fitchburg Teachers Union. We have 2 parents, right? Catherine and Valerie. And we have Maria, who's the director and teacher, and a teacher also. And I think there's a couple of other teachers floating around. The legislation that you co-sponsored is actually 2 bills, but the same bill. One was filed in the House by Representative Sanchez, and the Senate bill was filed by Senator DiDomenico in the Senate. They're identical bills. The bills will go before the Joint Committee on Public Service. We think the hearing is sometime in November. We're trying to get it moved up a little earlier than that. Essentially, what the bill would do would give these folks, directors, teachers, and folks involved in about 494 centers, the ability to form not a collective bargaining unit, but a organization that essentially would be given the ability to advocate for their centers, their teachers, and their directors. It does not affect them as state employees. It does not affect those organizations that take more than 10% subsidies from the state. Last session we had the same bill filed, and by the way, I should say this is a priority bill for the Mass Teachers Association. That's why Adam's here from the Fitchburg Teachers, and also for the AFT, Massachusetts. So, and also the AFL-CIO. So we've got the public sector unions, along with the AFL-CIO, making this a priority piece of legislation. What's different about this bill is it is an organization, but it doesn't provide collective bargaining rights. It's unique in the fact that directors and teachers together have the ability to form an organization, which is the MECEU, Mass Early Educators, that's who Alex is over here, United, and they would have the ability to, in fact, negotiate with the Secretary of A&F or the administration. Now, it's probably close to 5,000 teachers and directors who would be affected by this, who would want to be part of this organization. So it gives them the ability to grow and to advocate. I should tell you also, this is not just about wages and benefits. This is not about wages and benefits, although it's part of it. What's unique about this legislation, it gives the centers the ability, with teachers, to advocate for their centers.
I want you to know that it has not been lost on Beacon Hill, the importance of early education. What we're balancing and what we're trying to balance between early ed and higher ed, and in the meantime getting all our school-age kids in there with high schools and middle schools, is something that we grapple with every day. We did still have a $1.25 billion budget gap. I mean, I still am not out of the hole that we were in for the recession. There's still the issues that we're trying to maintain and contain. So it has not been lost on us in what this does. We know the legislation is very popular. People have been talking about it. Senator DiDomenico has been talking about it. I think, months ago we were having discussions with this with the Senate President, and it's something that we do understand has to happen. One of the problems is we don't have this big pot of money to fill all these gaps. And we'd love for your child to be able to attend 5 days and not have that box that you didn't fit into. But what we find is that at every point there's always going to be that ceiling. Whether it's the $200 more that you make or it's the $400 someone else makes, we're always going to be at that ceiling. And someone is going to be cut off. So that's what we're trying to deal with now. We're hoping over the course of the next couple of years, things are going to get better in our budget. We've been very, very fiscally prudent. There's many programs, and Paul can tell you, that have been eliminated. Never mind cut, but have been completely eliminated that we just don't have anymore for one of the most vulnerable populations that we have here in Massachusetts. So I think it's important for you to have us here. I like to come and visit these facilities. I think it's good to see what teachers are doing, what the kids are learning. My niece went to an educational center from the time she was 2.9 until the time she went to kindergarten, and I can't tell you the marked difference in her when she would come home and want a book over a Barbie doll. That's important. That's important for them going forward. So we know that you're working with these kids. We know that you're the start of their educational experience, and we appreciate the work that you do. And we're trying just as hard on Beacon Hill to make sure that we can protect these kids as much as we possibly can. Because we know there's no going back. You're only going to be 3 once. You're only going to win your colors once.
It's a domino effect. They are more successful throughout their educational experience. So that really great ground level foundation is really important. So making sure that we're paying educators. I went to Finland last year to tour schools and talk with their Ministry of Education, and one of the things we talked about was preschool, early education. There, every teacher, every person who works with children, every teacher from, the early childhood educator, the daycare provider, to a high school teacher, they are all master's level teachers that are paid professionally. They are considered and respected by the community on par with doctors and lawyers. And that's whether you work with 2-year-olds or you work with 18-year-olds. It doesn't matter. Because what they did 40 years ago was they completely changed their approach to education. And they used a science-based approach that said kids learn, at these young ages. It's a critical time in development. And if we can key in on that and put the investments there, the payoff throughout you're rewarded throughout the time frame, the child's life. So they said the investments early on pay off dividends down the road, and so they made that a priority. And so their entire system is really a birth to college because they have all public higher ed, but their investment in children. And we talked to their Minister of Education and said, well, how did you get the buy-in from all the politicians and from the public on making these huge investments in education? And he said it was easy. You know, in Finland, we don't have a lot of natural resources. We don't have a lot of exports. One thing we do have that makes us globally competitive are brains.
In the New York Times just cite them as one of the best, the smartest kids in the world.
They are
Yeah.
number one in the world. And they said brains are our exports. That's where we're putting our money. And they really believe, and they're really doing that. And in 40 years, they've had very little change in this philosophy. And it doesn't matter what political powers in office, they all believe it as a country that that is their priority. And so, you know, I think just looking at their example and what they've been able to do and their real focus on early education, it's a wonderful, wonderful experience to go and see it happening, and it is certainly something that we can learn.